Hello Math 152 students. In this video we'll get into our Chapter 1 and how to get started with your material. So the first place I would have you go is to your course content page, which you see here. This contains the link to your ebook, and when you first click your ebook, it may take you to a user agreement the first time, but then other times it will take you directly into this page. You'll see the contents. I think this may take you to a similar page like this. But notice you can navigate. I clicked my drop-down menu here to navigate through my sections for Chapter 1. Chapter 1 has 6 sections, and it's very vocabulary heavy. If we go back to our Google Calendar link, you'll notice that in every chapter you have a vocabulary quiz, and it's typically the first assignment. So the first place I would recommend going in your ebook is to the vocabulary list, which is at the beginning of each chapter review. Chapter 1 has a lot of vocabulary terms, and your vocabulary quiz is matching with these terms. So I would print this page. You should be able to print a single page and then use it to reference as you go through the rest of your chapter. So let's go back to the beginning of our chapter. If we click on this 1.1, it'll take you to section 1.1. There's also a chapter intro that's before this. But in this particular part, I want to point out the resources that you have. Each of these icons links to a video that was created by the textbook author or supplementary to the textbook. So these are not videos that I've created, but they are videos that discuss the concepts in your text that you may find helpful, particularly as we get into some of the more technical information with calculations. You may want to watch these videos if you're not understanding the printed text. So sometimes I'll point you to specific ones. Other times I will leave these to you as reference videos. Alright, so as you go through your text, there's a couple different options. Your online homework is one big list of problems, but you can tell which section it comes from. So particularly in a long chapter, it may be beneficial for you to read section 1.1 and try those practice problems. Other chapters that are shorter, you may want to read through the entire chapter and then tackle the online homework. Let's go back and just take a look so you can get a feel for what to do in Chapter 1. So the Assignments tab will have our link to the online homework, and click your All My Math Lab assignments. Again, here you may have to do this, accept the agreement the very first time, and then it should take you to the list. So the very first assignment is the orientation homework. If you have used MyMathLab or similar software before, you can skip this. The orientation homework is not graded, but it just shows you some different features of MyMathLab. Where we want to start is the Chapter 1 homework. You'll notice 46 questions, and if you click on the question, then you can tell what section it comes from by looking in that left-hand corner. This is from section 1.1, and it's question number 1 from the book. If you click on over, notice this is 1.1, but it's question number 2. We can also skip around a little bit. If I go to question number 8, notice this correlates to section 1.1, but it's number 17 in the chapter. Notice not number 17 in your homework set though. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to that, so if you get stuck, you know where to go back to. A couple other things. It's a little difficult to see the whole box here, but there are some built-in help features. There is View an Example, Help Me Solve This, which help you with a similar problem and then allow you to go back to the one you were working on. There's also links to the textbook. It'll take you to the textbook section that the homework problem is linked to. Sometimes it'll take you to a video. There's not always this option. And then also the Ask My Instructor. If you click the Ask My Instructor, it sends me a link to the specific problem you're working on. So if you had a question with this one, number 8, correlated to 1.1.17, it would send me a view of the actual question, and then you have a box to type your comments. This is especially useful when we're doing problems with calculations, because MyMathLab will randomize the numbers from one person to another. So I encourage you to use this. And in fact, if you have a specific question about your homework and don't use it, I'll say, hey, go back and use that Ask My Instructor, because it allows me to see the specific questions without having to go through and hunt down your particular numbers that are in the problem. All right, so going back to think about your ebook, you can kind of integrate how you're working those problems, either section by section or the entire chapter. You'll notice when you're working the MyMathLab for Chapter 1 that the greatest number also comes from Section 1. So let's talk a little bit more about your other assignments. I mentioned your vocabulary quiz already. You may be working on your MyMathLab homework before you submit your vocabulary quiz, or you may prefer to do your vocabulary quiz very first and then go back and work on that homework. Either way, your vocabulary quiz is timed. You have 60 minutes once you open it, so you want to make sure you're ready when you get started. Same thing for all of your vocabulary quizzes. Some of them are 30 minutes only, but they're all timed. You have one attempt and they're matching. Going back to your homework for just a moment, for the MyMathLab assignments, the homework will save as you go along. So you can do a couple problems, save, come back to it. Where you can't save and pick up is the tests. For the tests, you'll first of all notice that there's the flag. If you haven't done anything in the Chapter 1 homework, you can't access the test. In the syllabus, it discussed the 80% prereq, and it reminds you that here. So once you get at least an 80% on the homework, your test will be available to you. And when you open it, you have one attempt and it's timed. So think about your vocabulary quiz is timed, your chapter test is timed, but the homework is not. So spend time preparing for this through your vocabulary list and through your homework exercises before you open this Chapter 1 test. So we discussed that. Let's also take a look at the discussion board forums. For the discussion board forum, I have an intro video of how to use it if you've never used a discussion board. And then the very first post you should make is an introduction post. So underneath the introductions, I went ahead and put my introduction. You can click and read, and then you can reply, and then you can also start your own thread. So in this case, everybody should be creating a thread that is your introduction. So we'll have a whole lot of threads, and then you can reply on your classmates' threads. Going back to that discussion board, underneath the Chapter 1 topics, there are 3 different threads that each of you will post in each one. So rather than creating your own thread, you'll click, and here they're ordered kind of reverse order. The first one to watch is the parameter versus statistic, qualitative versus quantitative, and levels of measurement. Not a big deal if you watch them out of order, but the parameter versus statistic was designed to be first. So each of your discussion board forums will be kind of similar. Sometimes I'll post 1 or 2 threads, sometimes a few more for you to comment on and discuss particular topics out of each chapter. It's not meant to be comprehensive, but I picked some of the harder topics out of each one. So let's go back to our calendar and just kind of recap. For Chapter 1, we've talked about your vocabulary quiz. You see where to access that and where your words are. We have your discussion board, which you can go ahead and do your intro post, and then you also have 3 separate posts. They're due at the same time of the MyMathLab homework and test, so think about working on these and posting. You certainly don't have to wait until June 4th, but I leave it open until the end so we can continue that discussion until Chapter 1 closes. Notice the Chapter 1 MyMathLab homework and test are due the same day, and think about this June 4th as the closing of Chapter 1 and then really getting into Chapter 2 from there on. So the only thing extra for Chapter 1 is that mandatory course entry quiz, which hopefully you've already taken before watching this video. Alright guys, so that's it for now. As always, email me as you have questions. If there's something that's not clear or you're having trouble accessing, let me know.